This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Hello and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Friday, September 17. In Squiz Kids Today, submarines and staying safe. Iceland's no footprint rule. The teenage footy grand final star and the masked singer's Dannii Minogue. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
Submarines. They're a crazy piece of technology when you think about it. A great big steel can that can dive deep below the surface of the ocean, carrying about 100 people, all eating, breathing, sleeping, and working underwater for weeks at a time. They're quite remarkable when you think about it, and thinking about subs is what Australia's going to be doing quite a bit of in the coming years, following news yesterday that our country had signed a deal with the United States and the United Kingdom to develop a fleet of what's called nuclear submarines. Nuclear technology is both a very clever and a very controversial science. In a nutshell, it's a way of generating vast amounts of power, which you need to make a submarine work, from a relatively small piece of machinery called a reactor. The submarine deal that Australia has just signed is all part of a new pact, or agreement, announced yesterday between Australia, America and Great Britain, where each country has agreed to help out the other one. It's a bit like when you're at school or down at the Oval and you're picking kids to be on your footy or netball team. Now, why, I hear you ask, is Australia picking countries to be on its team that are on the other side of the earth? Well, it's all about strategy, you see. Down here, in our part of the world, China is getting bigger and stronger with every year that passes. And that's good and exciting for lots of different reasons, but it could also pose a threat to us going forward. So, by building submarines with some of our big friends in other parts of the world, Australia is making sure that it's got some powerful friends on its side, ready to tackle anything. And there's your geopolitics lesson for the week.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Iceland, where a massive increase in tourism was causing problems until locals had a bright idea. When visitors arrive, ask them to promise to behave. Iceland's Tourists Pledge asks tourists to commit to being respectful travellers. And since it was introduced 5 years ago, stories about tourists camping illegally, damaging the environment, and even using cemeteries as a toilet, have dropped off significantly. If it happened 5 years ago, then why are we telling you now? Well, when tourism first shut down at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, people in other travel destinations noticed that there were a few things they liked about not having visitors. And now that tourism is starting up again around the world, Hawaii, Canada, Finland, and others are introducing similar pledges to Iceland's. Each one is different, but the general idea is the same. Take only photos when you visit and leave only footprints.
Sport time.
The Melbourne Demons and Western Bulldogs will both enjoy a weekend off this weekend, in preparation for next Saturday's AFL Grand Final in Perth. And one player who'll be working hard to keep the nerves under control more than most is 19-year-old Demons half-forward Jake Bowie. As well as being a teenager about to play in the biggest game of the year, when he runs onto the pitch at Optus Stadium next Saturday, it will only be his 7th game ever in the professional league. No pressure then. For those of you who love your footy to be of the rugby league kind, there's definitely no rest for you this weekend, with plenty to distract and entertain. The Sea Eagles and Roosters will battle it out tonight, while the Eels will take on the Panthers tomorrow night, with all 4 teams fighting it out to make it to next weekend's preliminary finals ahead of the NRL Grand Final on October 3. And for those who prefer rugby union, don't worry, you're catered for too this weekend. The Wallabies will take on world champ South Africa on Saturday in Brisbane, hoping to back up last weekend's stunning victory for the green and gold. Whew, I'm exhausted just thinking about it all.
Spaced out.
And we have liftoff. Better than that, we have 4 ordinary people currently in orbit above our heads following the successful launch into space yesterday of the SpaceX rocket ship. It's the first time people who aren't professional astronauts have been in orbit above Earth, and it marks the start of what's called space tourism, which is to say that one day you and I could go into space. Speaking of astronauts, Australia's flag could soon be flying on the moon, after comments yesterday from a high-ranking member of NASA, the American Space Agency, who said she fully expected Australia to be involved in the next human mission to the moon, and then, after that, the mission to Mars. Instead of astronauts, we're talking Aussie-nauts. How cool is that?
It's Q&A time.
Yes, indeed it is Q&A time, folks. Masked singer, judge and all-round awesome human, Dannii Minogue has kindly taken time out from guessing the identity of a singing pavlova to answer your excellent questions. How did she turn music into a career? Tips for following a creative career path, and why being famous is not all it's cracked up to be. It's all there in a very special Squiz Kids Q&A, which is out now. If you're listening via a podcasting app, it should play automatically after this episode of Squiz Kids. Otherwise, search for it in your app or via the Squiz Kids website, squizkids.com.au. Attention all teachers. School holidays are upon us. Now, we know you work hard over the holidays, which is why we want to assure you that we'll be busy too. Very busy, in fact. So busy that when we all come back for Term 4, we'll be doing so with a brand new Squiz Kids offering, made just for you. I'm not going to say more than that just now, but rest assured, teachers, that it's been trialled and tested and held up to the light and examined and refined, all with the goal in mind of making your life easier and your kids smarter. In the meantime, check out our website, squizkids.com.au, for clues and also to register your interest.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. Which country has been asking visitors to sign a tourist pledge to protect the environment? That's right, it's Iceland. Question number 2. Name one of the 2 teams playing the AFL Grand Final next weekend. Yeah, it's the Western Bulldogs and the Melbourne Demons. Question number 3. Which Aussie entertainer and masked singer judge is the subject of the latest Squiz Kids Q&A? That's right, it's Dannii Minogue.
Shout-outs.
It's September 17. Today is Australian Citizenship Day, when thousands of people all over the country will become Aussies, and those of us who already are encouraged to stop and think about what an awesome country we live in. It's also a Friday, and you know what that means. Time for the old birthday reggae tune. Hit it. And it's a very happy birthday today to Kobe from Invermay, Scarlett from Sandy Bay, Harrison from Goulburn, Siobhan from DY, Lizzie from Pennant Hills, Zara from the Gold Coast, Monica from North Ryde, Jessica from Guildford, Ailani from Mortlake, April from Granton, Alexia, Gabby and Riley from Abbotsford, and AJ, who's tuning in all the way over there in Los Angeles in the United States. Plus, a belated birthday shout-out goes to Owen from Yarraville. Not forgetting, of course, all of those Squiz Kids celebrating a birthday over the coming weekend. First up to my excellent nephew Archie. To Thomas and Oliver from Hawthorne, Felicity from Coogee, Duran from Hurstville, Atticus from Bentley, Rowan from Exeter, Isabella and Noel from Fairfield Heights, Will from Cherrybrook, and an extra special shout out to Jack from Paddington, and finally to my good friend Ethan from Melbourne. Hope that Minecraft challenge went well. Kids celebrating a birthday over the school holidays, do not panic. You won't be forgotten. We'll give you all a shout out when we're back in term 4. And finally, because our friends in Melbourne, Canberra and most of New South Wales are in lockdown, we're sending out the last home learning herograms for the term, for which we're changing tunes and punching out the home learning dance track. Get your groove things on. And it's a home learning herogram to 4S at East Ryde Public School, to Class 5D at Narrabri Public School, Class 3W at Ulladulla Public School, and Class 4C at Alamanda College in Melbourne. Herograms also go to Class 6Y at Catherine Macaulay Primary School in Orange, Class 4H and 3E at Cronulla Public School, and 5-6H at Abbotsford Public School. Year 3 at Lillypilly Public School would like to send a thank you shout out to Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Fogarty. Neve sends a shout out to her Class 5 AJ, Mrs. Jeeves, and Miss Payne sends a home learning shout out to her Year 2 students at Narromine Christian School. Class 3R at Ryde East would like to thank their teacher Mr. Rothery for doing a super job teaching online, and all the students at Warhope Public School send a big shout out to all of their teachers. Lastly, a herogram for Class 4B and 4W at St John the Apostle Catholic School in Narraweena, and happy birthday to classmate Livia for the weekend. Phew, we did it. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout out, or if you're after a classroom shout out or you'd like to send a home learning herogram, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. Well, that's all we have time for today, just as well. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again after the school holidays. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out. Squiz Kids is proudly supported by the Judith Neilson Institute for Journalism and Ideas.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.